What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So we're getting back on the Goose for a little bit. The Goose, my twin turbo car. It's been a long time since this thing's been on the channel. I think maybe the last video I did on it was when it hit the dyno, which was pretty lackluster. Couldn't make any boost. The boost controller that I had set up just didn't work. I've since switched it over to actually controlling the boost with the Big Stuff 3. Seems to be working now. I can actually make a little more boost, but haven't really turned it up. Definitely not ready for the dyno again. There's actually a lot of things on this car that really need to be kind of addressed, which is why you don't see it on the channel much and why I don't really drive it and enjoy it. So let me kind of show you what I'm talking about. All right, so there's a couple things back here on the rear end that really bother me. One of them is these aft coast shocks. So back when I used to try to drag race this thing competitively, I really felt like I needed a double adjustable shock, which I probably did. The class I was running in was a drag rail class, and you really needed to be able to adjust the shocks the way you need to be able to do things a double adjustable shock can do. So in the cheap fashion that I roll, I just went online and found some used like dirt track aft coast shocks that were double adjustable. And instead of it having, you know, on a standard shock on a Mustang, it just has the actual rod itself goes up and the threads on the top. Well, I just made a bracket, since these were double eye bolts. Just made a bracket up top, kind of hold the top one. Made another bracket on the bottom to get my length out of it because these were longer. And then you can adjust compression and rebound, or rebound and compression. Anyway, it kind of worked, but these things, you know, when I bought them, they probably needed to be rebuilt at the time. They squeak, they kind of make noises. And to be honest with you, for this car, I just want to drive it and maybe take it to the track or something. I don't need a double adjustable shock anymore. So most likely gonna get rid of these, mainly just for ride comfort. Along with a lot of issues really with this car, you know, this car was kind of built over, you know, 25 years or something. You know, this was my very first car, got it in high school, and I would kind of do some stuff to it, and then it would progress as they naturally do to the next stage, and some things would never get updated or changed. You know, when I kind of went back and put the twin turbo setup in it, I tried to address as many of those things as I could, but I didn't get them all. One of the things I didn't get was the lower control arms. So this thing has Southside machine bars on it. So for you guys that know, these are like really old school lower control arms that they basically come with these brackets, and this is supposed to be mounted down here. They're welded on. This is mounted down here, and it's supposed to change the geometry on the rear suspension to really plant the tire. And it worked back in the day, but it really had too much bite. And so what I did was I actually drilled another hole up higher on the rear. I don't know if you can see it, which is lower than the top hole, but still trying to get a little bit of bite. You know, what do they call that? Anti-squat. So it's got some anti-squat to it. And then on the front, I actually made another hole, mounting hole lower than the factory hole. So the lower hole, I made a lower hole that's actually lower than the factory hole, which is up here. And that was also to kind of combat that, you know, not as much anti-squat. Really what I was trying to do was, I didn't want to hit the tires as hard as the south sides were hitting them. It was almost bouncing the tire. And some of that could have been shock adjustment. You know, I probably could have figured some of that out with shock adjustment, but it was just way too much anti-squat. So I was kind of trying to move it around with those. And what ended up happening is this car has a bunch of rear steer in it. So basically the driver's side tire is in a different location than the passenger side tire in relation to front to back. I don't remember which one it is. I think maybe the driver's side's right and the passenger side is wrong. Nevertheless, I don't know if it's, you know, whoever welded these brackets on this rear end or the holes I drilled. There's no telling. I mean, it's like I said, it's been 25 years or something. I don't remember the car wanting to move a bunch on the track, but now that I drive it on the street, It just seems like it drives straight. When you get on it, it kind of wants to change lanes a little bit, and it's doing a little measuring, and sure enough, it has some rear steer in it. The other thing I don't like either is these are solid mounted, non-adjustable. There's no Heim in there for any kind of flexibility, and they're really loud, so they transfer a lot of noise into the car. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull those off, and I've got some adjustable UPR lower control arms. So I picked these bad boys up on Marketplace a while back, and I think it's gonna solve a little bit of my problem. Obviously I'll have some adjustment so I can adjust out that rear steer, because I don't know that I wanna cut those brackets off and do all that stuff right now. Plus I would still like to try to keep a little bit of anti-squat in it. So at least I can adjust out the rear steer on this thing, and just make these shims to kind of shim the spring. I usually weld another piece on that kind of comes up so I can adjust ride height, because I don't have coilovers back here. And this car still has, I don't know, like a 200-pound bumper in it from the race days, so potentially I'm gonna have to figure out how to adjust that based on the weight. But I think that's gonna fix the problem. I think it's also gonna give it a little bit of adjustability, maybe a little more solid mounted, whereas these things don't. It's probably gonna still transfer a bunch of noise into the cab, but I'm okay with it. I've actually been doing a lot of sound deadening in this thing and stuff. Try to combat the noise, but I think these lower control arms, I think they're gonna get the job done. So I'm gonna put those on, probably take those shocks off, clean up some stuff in here. One of the other issues was the exhaust just hangs way too low in this car. So you gotta think right now, the rear end's at full droop and you can still see those mufflers just hanging down there. Which really has two issues. One is that it kind of drags coming in the shop, and I can't lower the rear, and it kind of needs to be about an inch lower in the rear. But it already drags coming in the shop, so I mean, I wasn't gonna lower it until I figured out the exhaust. So I think I'll try to push those mufflers up, maybe make new brackets, push those mufflers up maybe 1.5 inches or 2 inches, and then maybe once I get those lower control arms in there, drop it maybe 1/2 inch or 1 inch, depending on how it looks. So in the rear of this thing, you can see I've started sound deadening, closing up a lot of these holes and stuff that were in here, these factory holes, trying to get it sound deadened. Plan on doing a lot more, and then I really want to get the backside carpeted, get some of the plastics back in. So I've got this one sitting in here now. Still got to put the other side in. Before I permanently do it, I think I'm gonna actually paint them. And then I'll make a floor for it and get it all carpeted. Got a box that goes over this. Yeah, just clean it up a little bit. You know, it makes me not want to drive it because it's just kind of too race car for me. And I want more street car. Prime example would be like these kick plates. So there's no kick plate in there. And I don't really like the way the factory kick plates look. So I think I'm gonna make something that kind of goes in there, wraps over this carpet. Maybe do some black ABS or something and kind of covers and finishes that off. I need to fill these old vent holes. So I've already got that speaker grill piece in there, but the other side is not in there, and there's a vent out on that side as well. So anyway, enough talking, let's get to work. I think first thing is lower control arms, and then I'm probably gonna put this thing at ride height and pull some measurements to figure out geometry and see where we're at. For neutral, for squat, you know, if we're in squat range or for an anti-squat range. See what the percentages are. I'll kind of show you how you do that. It's actually easier than you probably think. Then I'm gonna figure out what I'm gonna do with them shocks, and I don't know, maybe even raise the front up just a little bit. All right, guys, I'm back after knee surgery. Everything went well. I don't know, I was probably laid up for 2 days. And then I was up moving around, everything was fine. Pain was instantly gone. I mean, from the time I woke up, getting in the car, pain was gone. So I had some swelling, some stiffness, I wanted to be ginger on it too. I didn't want to hurt it again. And so 2 days, I kind of laid around a little bit, and then I was up moving around, and other than the stiffness and the swelling and me trying to be, you know, a little extra ginger on it. Ginger, is that the right word? Good to go. So I feel good. I still kind of don't want to kneel for some reason. So it's kind of hard for me to squat down or kneel down or whatever, but got this thing finished up, and I think it's dialed. I think it's ready to go for a ride. Car does sit a little lower than it used to, which is fine. I'm cool with that. I like the way it looks. The only downfall is when I had it apart, I wanted to raise the exhaust on it an inch and a half or something, just to kind of give me more clearance, and I didn't get to do that. I didn't have a chance to do that. So, I mean, it's something that it's not like I can't do it in the future, but I think everything's squared away. All the measurements pull out right. No more rear steer. Hopefully, the only way to tell is take it for a drive. There it is, the Goose. So one of the things I did look at while we were riding was how much boost it was making. And on the mechanical gauge, it was saying 6 pounds, which is 4 more pounds than we had on the dyno. I know a lot of guys, you know, kind of razz me a little bit, give me a hard time about, you know, it only made, you know, 450 or whatever it was on the dyno, but that was on 2 pounds on a motor that's set up to be a turbo motor. So, I mean, you'll have that, I guess. So 6 pounds now. I know that at least the boost controller is working. I'll kind of double check a couple things and then we'll start turning the boost up a little bit. Couple logs, make sure the air fuel ratio is good. And I don't know, maybe back to the dyno, maybe to the track, who knows. Anyways, as always, I know this has been a long one as far as like how long it's taken me to make this video. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you guys on the next video.